Okay. Um, so exams being graded right now. So what'd you think? Easy, somewhat difficult, hard? How would you rate it? Mm. Um, what's the key to life? Partial credit and grading on a curve, right? So when we go through in that, if you wonder again how we're going to grade, go back to that first lecture because I explained how we do all the grading things. So basically, we grade on curves. So, if you think you didn't do well, then probably realize that everyone probably thinks they didn't do well, and so, you know, we'll grade on curve. I'll go over the exam. There's still, I think, two people who have to take the exam, so we'll go over it after it's graded, probably next week. Any questions about anything? There's an assignment due on Thursday, right? Any questions about the assignment?
Over the first what the APA style.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I know a few of you guys have read out and in terms of what number of months.
Yeah, so let's pick a, so if you go to like, here's this article, right? This is the article that we've been reading, or like we're going to go through. Um, a bad night's sleep, right? That's the article. Well, come back. If you go here to cite and push cite, see how it gives you all the different types of ways of citing. So these are different types of reference systems. So there's the MLA, which I don't know what that stands for. APA is American Psychological Association, University of Chicago, Harvard, Vancouver, so all these different ways. So, and you can see they're just sort of slightly different in terms of how they're formatted. So I'm sure you've written papers where they've said, I want it in the APA style, or I want it in the Chicago style, whatever. That's what they're referring to. It's just like the way that like for example, in the Chicago style, notice that the um, the date is at the back. In the APA style, the date is up here. It's those little things. So what I'm looking for you to do is whatever article that you find, just go and then just go to Google Scholar, pick out the APA reference, and then just put that into your answer. Any questions about that? Okay. This. All right, so what we're doing today and for the next couple times is going through and developing, your basically your qualitative interview schedule. So just to remind you is that what we were doing is looking at sleep and academic performance, um, and that we went through and sort of talked about, well, so how do you go through and develop a questionnaire? And said that first stage of developing the questionnaire is to do a qualitative study. And so what we're going to do for the next assignment is basically do a qualitative study. And what that means is that we'll go through and we'll put together the information sheets, and we'll put together the interview schedule. But then rather than have you go out there and talk to people outside the class, which would require IRB, well, actually, technically, you don't actually have to have IRB. Like if we wanted to go and to talk to people outside the class, you wouldn't have to have IRB. You only have to have IRB if you are doing it for a research project, right? So like if you think you might want to publish it, then you have to have IRB. But you actually don't have to have IRB if you just want to like do a survey of people. So like when the university goes through and sends out a survey of how much you eat in the student cafe or whatever, they don't have to have IRB for that because they're not using it for research purposes. If they want to turn around and publish that information, then they have to retrospectively get IRB, but they technically don't have to have it. So we technically could go out, because this is for a class, we technically go out and talk to people outside the class, but there's no need because, you're all students, you all have to sleep. So I think we can just pair up and just do it ourselves. So what we're looking to do is develop an interview schedule, and then you pair up with someone, and that you interview them, and they interview you. And then and what you do is you record it on the phone, and then we'll have you upload it. We'll figure out with Rudy how to have you upload it, and then we'll get them transcribed, and then we'll show you the transcriptions that come out of it. Good. All right, so just to remind you what it is that we're kind of aiming for. This is just a qualitative study that I picked out on sleep in first year. So some things to note from this. So first off, structured or unstructured? Structured. So it comes down, it's set up basically the same way as the other articles that we've been looking at, and ends in the first paragraph with a statement about what it is that they're what the study's about. Then notices that the participants n is equal to 15. So 12 female, 3 male. And then here, this section. Interviews were conducted when students had been at the university for 7 to 8 months. 9 students were studying art, blah, 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 blah. They were recruited via departmental email lists and social media with adverts asking for students who lived on campus and experienced poor sleep quality, defined for the purposes of recruitment as trouble falling asleep at least 4 nights a week. So I mentioned, I want to highlight this because when we go through in that, when we're going to write your script in terms of who it is that you want to talk to, is that one thing you have to think about is that, well, do you want to just talk to everyone, or do you want to talk to people with sleep problems? And if you want to talk to people with sleep problems, then you have to go through and you have to define what that means. And like in this case, they picked less than 4 nights a week. And then the analysis, they used NDivo. So what they did is that they got the recordings, right? So it says up here that they were audio recorded and transcribed by an independent transcription service. So what they do is you take the audio recording, you put it through a program. We use Otter. Otter is just this program that you put in an audio thing and it gives you a transcript from it. But actually, Zoom does the same thing. So like if you do it on Zoom, Zoom will give you a transcript as well. To get a transcript out of Zoom, in case you want to use this, is what you do is that you actually record it to the cloud, not to your computer. And then when you go up to the cloud, then you'll see that there's a, under your Zoom account, because everyone will have a Zoom account here. Under your Zoom account, it will show you that your recordings, and then it will allow you to get the transcript. So it's another way to do it. And then it goes through and it talks about the different ways of that they go through and that they did the coding. So just keep this in mind because when we get the transcripts, that's what we're going to do. And then the last thing is that notice here is that the way that they're reporting the results. Like, so here's the first topic or the first kind of nature of poor sleep quality. And what they're doing is that they are giving quotes, right? And then they're coming up with themes. And the themes then are sort of the overall learnings that they're getting from these transcripts. So the idea is that you make up this interview schedule, you do the interview, you take the transcripts, and then you go through and you transcribe, you analyze the transcripts to try to figure out what kind of themes are coming out from that. And the themes, again, are subjective, and that there's not, different people can get different themes that come out of it. If you read up here, it says what they did is that, the first author went through and did just read through them all, and then they went through and they formally coded it, and they had two research assistants do the same thing, independently code it, and then they get together and they look at the codes and etc. So, okay, so that's what we're going for in terms of what we're, so the first step is come up with the interview schedule. Then the second step is going to come through and go through and transcribe it. Then we're going to code it. And then from that, then we develop a questionnaire that we're going to give out as the last assignment. Good? Okay. Okay, so now We just have to figure out what we're doing. So I think last time we had a couple different groups, right? So one group was sleep and work. Is that right? Am I remember that correctly? If you were the sleep and work group, raise your hand. Okay. And another group was, what was the other group? Say it again. Sleep on or off campus. If you were the sleep on or off campus group, raise your hand. Okay. So for those of you who don't have a group, you have a choice. You can either go in the sleep on or off campus group, or you can go the sleep and work group. Okay. So why don't we do this? Stand up, sleep on or off campus over here, sleep work group on here, on this side of the room, and then we'll split you up after that. So sleep on or off campus over here, sleep work over here. Oh, you can go to whichever one you want. Just pick one. Whichever one interests you more. Yeah, whatever one interests you more. Yeah. Was that right? Was there sleep on campus and another group of sleep off campus? So we had 3 groups?
Yeah.
Okay. So who's on the sleep on campus? Okay. Or who wants to be on the sleep on campus? Raise your hand. Who wants to be on the sleep off campus? Okay. Sleep off campus, once you come down here, sleep on campus, go back there. You're sleep and work, right? Yeah, what was that? Yeah, you had small groups on the same. Yeah, so I mean, it was all the same general theme of, okay. So why don't we, why don't we split this up into groups of like 4 people? So, because we can have different groups doing it. So go into groups of like four people, let's say. So you 4 back there. Are you a sleep on campus or a works? Okay, so you're over here. You work? Yeah. So you're over there. You guys are a group. So we have this group here is off, on, off. Yeah, which one are you? Off? On campus. Are you on or off? Off. Okay, so off, 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 on. Right? And then we have sleep off campus, sleep on campus, sleep off campus. And then we have sleep and work. Okay, so first thing to do is to come up with answer this question. What's the purpose of your study? That is that, what do you want to know? Right? I mean, what interests you about this topic? Good? Okay. 5 minutes. Discuss what interests you about this topic. Yeah, I'll check in 5 minutes. If you don't have it all done after 5 minutes, that's fine. But I'll check in after 5 minutes. Go. Oh, by the way, first introduce yourself. So introduce yourself to your group so everyone knows who you are. So you probably should have one group here. And you have one, like have this be a group or that be a group. So so you're probably like 3 groups, right? So you have one group here, you're all the off campus. You off campus? Okay. Why don't you do just, or why don't you 3 do a group, you 3 do a group. You 3 do a group, or you 3 do a group.
You two are doing fast. Yeah. Okay. If you want, yeah, and then you two. Or you three, and you three, how about these three and these three? Okay. Good? So introduce yourself first.
Well, I think. Oh, really? Sorry. Right now.
Yeah. Say again? Yeah. Well, it's the fourth. Talking to each other is the fourth. And the fifth sign is I'm excited about that. Good. Okay, there's a couple ways of thinking about this, right? So you could be asking yourself, so, what do I want to know? Right? What's my research question from that? Or you could be asking yourself, well, what do I think is important about sleep in whatever the topic is? So are you at the point where you are kind of getting towards a research question? Like what's your unanswered question that you want answered? Ask yourself this, what's your unanswered question? What question would you like to have answered? Yeah,
Just, um, the, living on campus, looking at the drones, like your kids want to.
okay. Yep, that's fine. And then I'll ask you, why do you think that that's a, why are you asking that question? What do you think?
Where you live,
Yeah,
building, where you stay on it, building.
yeah.
But
Okay. And then, so let's say if you find out that, I'm just taking this example. Let's say you find out that people say, yes, it's noisy to sleep in the dorms. Then what else would what would you like to know after that? Okay. So you'd like to know how it affects your school. Do you think everyone on campus is going to have is going to be affected negatively? So what's the difference between people who are affected and people aren't affected? No, but I mean, like, why are some people affected by, why does the dorm situation bother some people and lead to poor outcomes, but it doesn't, I mean, you could say, well, people have different experiences in the dorms, so some dorms are louder than others. You could say that some people are just more able to adjust to it, or so why do you think that there's a difference between people? Yeah, and what's the issue about the dorms? Yeah. Like for over here, have anyone started thinking about what you're interested in? Yeah. Okay, does work affect sleep quality? Yeah, so how do you mean? Like what's your thought? Uh-huh. Yeah.
Or if they were, maybe like over 40 hours.
Mhm. That's all right. So you think that so more people work, the worse their academic performance. Is that right? And will it be that way for everyone? So like, I mean, so who is it that's likely to have their academic performance limited by work, affected by work versus who doesn't get affected by work? Okay. And why is that?
Work
Uh-huh. So it sounds like you have a pretty, good sense in your mind about what the, like for example, people have a certain number of hours per day, and that if you work off campus, you have to travel to get there, and so that's going to take time, and then you're going to work more hours. Is that the idea? Okay. So, yeah. So just how would you then, given that, what's your purpose of what's your research question or your hypothesis? What's your state as a hypothesis? Well, think about it. Do you have a sense?
yeah, I was like the same.
So but you can come up with a hypothesis.
That's like,
Good. Okay, so I'll leave you alone. So come up with a hypothesis.
Oh. I thought it was an article. I wonder if you can just
Okay, should we try it? All right, on-campus group, what's your your hypothesis or your research question, or what do you want to look at? What building has the most effect on your sleep?
Building more noises and others.
Uh-huh.
Would like to find out.
Yeah.
The building. One building. Then building. And the best to go.
And what do you think? How do you think the building impacts your sleep quality? Uh-huh. Yeah. So construction. Uh-huh. Okay. So sleep on campus. So you're interested in kind of how the buildings influence sleep. And your thought is that the factors, yes. So like what kind of question would you ask? Like let's if I lived in a building, what would you ask me? Like what would be the okay, so you're thinking about getting people from different buildings. And you ask some people questions like, like how much sleep do you get in your building, how noisy is it, and things like that. And then you'll compare across different buildings. Is that right? Okay. You want to compare buildings. And your basic assumption is that people are going to be disturbed by construction, fire alarms, and things like that, right? So you're assuming that people will be disturbed by fire alarms, etc. So, right? And do you think there's differences because, you know, there's sort of one way to do a study like this is as a descriptive study, where you just describe what it is that, you know, so how many people in this building have sleep problems versus how many people in that building have sleep problems. That's a descriptive study. If you then want to make it an explanatory study, right, then you're going to have some type of, you're looking at, you got some theory for why there might be differences. And the theory could be differences between the buildings themselves, right, but also between different people. So like who is it in certain, that's going to be more affected in certain buildings by whatever the environmental things are in the buildings. And so do you have a sense about who it is that's likely to be more impacted than other people? Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of people, do you have like some type of people are going to be more affected than other type of people? Like, I think people who are deep sleepers, right, would be less affected than people who are light sleepers. Did you hear that? So other type of things that people are going to be impactful? Well, we'll put a little question. So we'll say deep versus light sleepers, other factors. Anyone else do on campus? That was the only on campus, right? Okay. Off campus? You guys have an off campus question?
I was, I don't know like how exactly word it, but I would say couldn't to sleep off campus, except for like the quality of sleep depending on their living situation.
Like what kind of living situations off
like,
campus?
Like for example, like those who like maybe live in a house or an apartment, or like or who live with their parents. That has like a factor like on the amount of stress on it they have on them.
Okay.
So that affects the quality of sleep.
So you think that like the housing situation is going to impact the quality of sleep? Right? Yeah. And what do you, I mean, is there any, because if ultimately what you care about is academic performance, then is there any relationship between those? Because I think that's probably going to be true, right? Yeah. It's like if you live in a noisy house, you'll probably have less sleep than if you live in a not noisy house.
Yeah. You know, obviously you go looking at the quality of sleep, then that affects your academic performance.
Yeah.
Being fatigued or like you know, not having a motivation to proceed or go through classes or anything like that.
Okay, so it could be from fatigue, right? It could be from lack of motivation. Right? It could be from all these other types of factors, right?
Yeah.
So there are a number of type of weight of mechanisms that can go that you can happen from sleep to that. Okay. All right. Other group?
We did the question, is there a significant relationship between how far students live off campus from student site and the quality and quantity?
Okay, so distance from campus versus quality of sleep. And why is that? Why do you think there might be a relationship?
Maybe those students who live closer, they don't have to like wake up as early as those who can bother.
Yeah. So it's the time it's going to take to get to campus.
Yeah, the time it takes. So maybe wake up earlier because traffic or whatever. Or
okay.
People live closer, it's like they don't have to worry about traffic. Just one road.
So it's really time. Time to get to campus. Is that right? I mean, distance is one of the factors, but like, you know, if you have to take a bus versus if you can drive, that's also going to be, like, if you have to take a bus and you live a mile away, you're probably going to be more inconvenienced than if you have to drive and you live 5 miles away. All right. Okay. And so why do you think, So how do you think it goes? Is that people like have to get up earlier? Is that what they probably have to do for more time? And so therefore, they are going to be just more tired because why don't they go to bed early?
What was the question?
So why don't they, I mean, if people have to get up earlier to get to campus, right?
Yeah.
Can't they just go to bed earlier?
Because they have work and then they possibly have to come back home to do them.
Okay,
So
so the time to campus is sort of a, it's like if they have a tight schedule, if they have a very full schedule with work or whatever. And so it's kind of you're kind of looking at what their schedule is. Schedule tightness. Tightness.
like Jennifer told us that it's like an hour to get to school. And then it takes like me and Jenny about like 6 minutes to drive to school because we're all off campus.
Right.
So like she has to wake up much earlier than we did. Stuff like that. And so we have like the same class right now. We're talking about the time. It's like how she has to wake up earlier.
Yeah. So so there, you probably want to, maybe, because I imagine, so there's one thing, just the time it takes, right? And probably also time it takes and whether or not you want to come to class, whether you want to spend the time to come to class, right? So is it worth coming to class? And so you could pick out people who live up a ways away, and then they look at this question about when do they decide to come to class, and how is that, and what's the relationship between sleep and that decision? Does that sound okay? So it's a decision, the trade-off between sleep and class. The assumption being is that if you don't come to class, is that probably won't do as well as if you came to class all the time. That's an assumption. Maybe wrong, but that's an assumption. That's why I think we drive this thing, right? Is this assumption? Because otherwise, if you didn't think coming to class was worth it, then it's like, don't go to class.
If you live farther, they're like maybe less likely to want to go to class. Like they're using like the attitude they have to going.
Well, it's like if you live, so there's one question which is like, how far away do you live, right? And can you choose, do you have any choice in terms of how far away you live? Right? And so, knowing this, that it's going to be easier to come to class or not. And then there's the question about, well, given where you live, it's like, does this impact your ability to kind of, your willingness to come to class? As the assumption being is that, well, if you just slept 2 hours less, that you could then go back and forth to class and wouldn't be, time would not be the issue. But if it's a trade-off between sleep and between travel time, then that seems to be okay. Other group?
We narrowed it down to someone who people who commuter lounge to see how far they live, how their schedule is, because I know a lot of people that commute have their schedule until like 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
That way they're not driving back and forth. But I also know like for like upper classes, a lot of people happen, so they have to like do their schedule around like sometimes meetings or driving from to the meetings and like the meetings are like
okay. Any other groups? Any other ideas are different than these for the off-campus people? Yeah.
I mean, we haven't like figured out everything for this, but maybe like what neighborhood exactly they live in, like if it's a more quiet neighborhood or if they live by the Amtrak, like the train. So kind of.
It's kind of like over here then.
Yeah, same thing.
Neighborhood effects.
Yeah.
So it could be a similar type of group where what they're asking on-campus people, you could ask off-campus people as well. Would there be a difference between what on-campus people say versus what off-campus people would say in terms of the building influence?
Because we're really the off-campus will have.
Well, why don't we, because does anyone here live on campus? Excellent. So you're our two guinea pigs. You're the on-campus people. So when we do interviews then, we'll make sure you get interviewed about your on-campus experience. And then does anyone live off campus? Everyone? Yeah. So then we'll get some other people to do the off-campus experience. So you're on campus and you're on campus and you're all off campus. Okay, great. You're on campus? Oh, good.
On campus, live on campus, live off.
Yeah, good. So just make sure that when you interview people on this, is that you interview people who are both on campus and off campus. So that way you can compare the experiences between what they're saying versus on and off campus. Okay. Let's see. So we have the work people. What kind of ideas you have?
So our question was, how are sleep patterns associated with academic undergrad students, and like what variables are like predictors and like potential predictors such as like work hours, work shift, workplace, like how impacted the work is on the body, stuff like that. Then time like devoted to study.
So what's your thought?
We think that like people that work like a hard job like on the body will have like they're gonna have less like night shift, obviously you're gonna have less time to sleep, and then that's gonna negatively impact your academic performance.
So you're thinking about in terms of from work is that does the type of work influence right? And that also that influences academic performance. That's the idea. So what determines the type of work that you work?
I guess circumstances, like what, like certain family circumstances, personal circumstances.
I mean, because you could think, well, maybe academic performance determines your type of work, right? So maybe if you're a nuclear physicist, like you're studying nuclear physics, that you can get a job doing in the research lab where you're doing nuclear physics. So it could be, on the other hand, if you're a humanities major and that no one's hiring humanity majors to do research work, is that maybe you have to get another type of job, right? And maybe also type of work might be family situation. So if you got kids, and so you can't, but maybe you only take a job at night because that's sometimes you have a partner who watches the kids or whatever.
Like sometimes school too, when it's like something you don't have availability for school day, like pick up a night shift. Let's say you have to work 4 hours, that's a really hard job on the body.
Anyone here ever worked a night shift? What the what's that? Foster farms? Well, yeah. It's tough. I mean, I found it because I tried to work night shifts when I was in college, and I found it was just impossible. So it was impossible to stay awake. So night shift's tough. So in that case, then, it sounds like what you'd like to do is you'd like to talk to people with different type of jobs and see the relationship between the jobs and their sleep and academic performance. Yeah. Okay. All right. Other ideas? Say it again. So one more time.
More likely to have forced.
Okay, so people who work off campus are more likely to have versus on campus. Anyone here work on campus? Anyone here work off campus? Okay, good news. We have a natural experiment, natural group of people to talk to then. So people who work on campus are more likely to have better sleep quality than people who work off campus.
If they work even part-time or full-time, or they're focusing more on full-time.
Hmm. Okay. So maybe that's complicated because you don't know whether the people working on campus are working more hours or not. Because they could just be working off campus 20 hours a week or 10 hours a week. So I mean, is it a time thing that you're thinking about? It just takes more time to go off campus, or is it more of a, yeah, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but I would expect then that people who work less can study more than people who work more, right? So what's the issue? I mean, because it sounds like this is a descriptive study where you could just sort of say, well, you know, is it true that people who work out, we'll do a little test. How many hours a week do you work off campus?
I work off campus and I work 35 hours.
35. Who else works off campus? How many hours? 25? 38? 25? 25? Okay. So, so probably we're going to find that people can do that. And that probably people on campus who only work 10 hours a week have more time to study than people who work off campus. Mm-hmm. So what's the interesting question? What interesting issue about this? I mean, what's the unknown thing about this? Yeah.
You're saying like more hours you work, the less time you have to study, rather than the less hours you have to study.
Yeah.
So the more hours you work, how will it affect exactly that for
okay. I mean, so the on and off campus thing doesn't really matter. It's just how many hours you work.
Yeah, well, I thought you go into like the distance thing too, or like you're just taking some students have like a random chunk of time that are just dedicated to work versus other students have that 4 hours that can be dedicated.
But do we want to know, like, because you could ask, how do people who work large number of hours off campus, how do they do it? Right? How do they manage? Mm-hmm. So you could just do that to sort of see, what is that? How do people manage who work large number of hours off campus? Is that the
more than 20 hours.
Yep. I mean, you could pick out and say, well, people are more than 30 hours, let's say, versus people who are,
I'm limited to 18 max.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, so what's the focus? I mean, this is more a probing question but why the focus on campus rather than just total number of hours? I mean, because I know that on campus means that you have limited hours, but you can also work less than 20 hours a week off campus too. So is there an issue? Is there something special about on campus work? Like, you get paid more? Do they give you more time to study if you're on campus or things like that? Is it about an on-campus job versus an off-campus job? Okay, so it could be then is, yeah. Right.
If you get below it, get in trouble.
Okay, so it's partly then so it sounds like that the hours is one thing. Does anyone here work off campus less than 20 hours a week? Yeah. Okay, we have 2 guinea pigs then who work 3 who work off campus less than 20 hours a week. We have some people who work off campus more than 20 hours a week, and we have people who work on campus. Yeah.
I guess there's also people that can on call, like I'm always on call, so whenever you get a call, that you have like 4 hours. And
right.
Like you have to meet 16 hours in a month, like you have to be on call. Like if you get called in, there's like no matter what.
Excellent. So we have an on-call, right? Yeah. Okay. And then I would also not throw in, but I would also include is that, you know, we have athletes. Right? You're an athlete. You play basketball? Anyone else does any sport? Well, because I think that that's another one, which is that that's sort of like on call in a sense that you've got a very rigid schedule that takes lots of hours. So how about it sounds like what you like to do is maybe different type of jobs and then different type of, and vary the hours and then see if the on-campus jobs are cushy jobs that they allow you just to hang out and study versus off-campus jobs. Does that sound right? So it's job type. So it's, I guess, the same thing. Type of work is going to, type of job, it's really, type of job and is going to influence your sleep. Sound right? Any other ideas for work and sleep? Okay. So sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like we have, you know, this is one type of study to do. This is a second type of study to do, right? And then these ones are a third one, where it's partly on campus, partly off campus people looking at sort of the impact of the environment on sleep and academic performance. Sound right? Oh, you know, this clock is wrong. So I was sitting there thinking, we have so much time, but we don't. We're almost out of time. So the next step then is to go through and to come up with who you want to, you know, so given that you have these three kind of focuses, who you want to talk to. So if you think of this one, you say, all right, so you know, these two studies here, who to talk to? Who do you think you should talk to? Yeah.
Living on the dorm, maybe they're already.
Okay. So you want to talk to people who live on campus. And then you also want to talk to people who live off campus. Right? I mean, we had the off-campus neighborhood group. Who was the off-campus neighborhood group? Who was the ones who were interested in off-campus, the impacted neighborhood? Yeah. So you have off-campus neighborhood group. So anyone who lives off campus? I mean, because on campus, I assume you all live in, you know, you all live in similar type of situations in terms of dorms or student housing, right? Off campus, though, you can have different type of situations. You want to, is there any particular situation for off campus that you want to look at? Yeah. Well, it's more of a general question. I mean, because if you want to go through and talk about what the, you know, what situations you think are going to be good and bad off-campus situations to live in.
More, the house is more isolated.
Living with family, is that going to be good or bad? Yeah. so I mean, you know. One of the worst, one of the, I had gone away, was living in campus, living on at school, and came back, and I was home for like 3 weeks. Drove me crazy. Every morning my mom would come in at 7 o'clock. What do you want for breakfast? I said, I don't want breakfast. Well, you have to eat something. I just want to sleep here. Well, you have to eat something. Eventually you're going to get up, and this would go on every morning. And after about a week, I said, I got to get out of here. So you could live at home, right? What would be another type of environment that you'd want to kind of pick people who talk to people who live in those situations?
Yes, if you live with friends versus like random strangers.
Okay, friends versus random people.
Yeah.
Live near train tracks?
Maybe the quality of the
Quality meaning
yellow or like nice area.
okay.
I don't know what word to put.
Yeah, so the quality of the area. I mean, to me, I think train tracks are not because I can't. Like when I tried to, when I've tried to sleep in those I just can't do it. The little train comes by all the time, and I think people who live here get used to it. But yeah, where's that station? Okay. Station, and then how about like people who live down by downtown? But I would think that's probably the noisiest place is living down next to the 99. Is that right? I mean, where's the worst place to live in town? South. But is it the worst noisy wise or just worse?
Physical area.
Okay. All right. So south.
Based on personal experience, because there's always cops and sirens.
Okay. All right.
At any hour.
So does that sound good? Yeah.
Yes, around like the street, like all those causes if you're living like behind you, like the family.
Is that good or bad?
I think it's like there's a lot of traffic, like a lot of cars.
So then we'll say north or south. All right. How about for this one here? For those who sleep off campus, and the idea was to look at this trade-off between sleep and commuter time, or sleep and in your other obligations. So who would you want to talk to?
Students who live in different parts of the city.
It's not neighbor. I mean,
Well, not neighborhoods, but I'm talking about like general area, like 100% how percent, like how far like, they are away from campus.
okay, so do it by people who live close by versus long commutes. Right.
You think you those who live out in the city?
I mean, maybe just only talk to. I mean, because this is just for the qualitative part, right? So in terms of what you'll learn from people who live close by, right? So like if we live 6 minutes away. If we talk to people who live close by, they probably say, don't think about it too much. So maybe talk to them a couple. But I think most of what you're going to get is people who live long distances away. They're the ones who are going to probably have to go through this decision. Right? Okay, so people who live long distance. How would we identify who those people are? So what criteria should we use? Half hour? Hour? What was the question?
Oh, like more than 20 minutes away.
Yeah, I mean, what's the level that you want to sort of say that this is the amount that distance, a long distance is. Well, let's do it by time. I mean, because you could do it by distance, but I think time is probably a better, because it sounds like it's time that you care about, the time of going in the campus or not. 25 minutes. Okay. How many here live more than 25 minutes away? How many does it take you more than 25 minutes to get to campus? So everyone else is less than 25 minutes. Okay, so 25 minutes. All right, and then this group here. So it sounds like you want people with different types of jobs. So it sounds like you want people who are on campus. Cushy jobs. Cushy? Does cushy have a U in it? Cushy jobs. Then you have off campus. Off campus, and you have less than 20 hours a week. You have off campus, more than 20 hours a week. Then you have on call, and production. Well, physical, hard physical, more physical labor. Physical labor. Okay, does that sound right? Okay, then I'll leave you off if you don't, but I could also put athletes in there too. So then let's go ahead and start from there next time. So I'll write this down. I'll write all this up, and next time we'll start from there. Does that sound good? What's that? Yeah, I think my writing's so bad though. I think I just have to write it down.